So lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are speaking about the need to defend against the future of cyber attacks. Virginia Democratic Senator Tim Kaine says he and his colleagues are working on legislative solutions, while Kansas Republican Senator Roger Marshall says he wants President Biden to put pressure on Russian President Vladimir Putin to stop cyber attacks from his country.
You're going to see cyber investments in the defense bill, and I also think you're going to see it as an increasing priority in the infrastructure discussions that we're having.
When cyber attacks come from Russia, I can guarantee you President Putin knows exactly what's going on. In these communistic countries, these cyber attacks are encouraged. I think that the Communist Party empowers them and helps them.
The FBI says any person who falls victim or company who falls victim to a cyber attack should contact the FBI and the Internet Crime Complaint Center. Joining me now to discuss the recent cyber attacks and how Congress is trying to address the issue is Pamela Clegg. She is the Director of Financial Investigations and Education for CipherTrace. Welcome to Prime.
Thanks for having me. Good evening.
So this week, another cyber attack impacting one of the world's largest fast food chains, McDonald's. What do U.S. companies need to do, all U.S. companies really, to prepare for potential hacks?
Well, all U.S. companies really should expect to be a victim at some point, right? So we have to have an incident response plan already on the books. They should also engage an incident response firm. And that incident response firm most often will be utilizing a cryptocurrency analytics tool like CipherTrace to be able to track that cryptocurrency payment once the payment is actually made.
So if you're the CEO of a company, right, of course you should take the precautions, of course you should prepare. But once you've already been hacked, the main objective is really to get business back online again, right? So it's understandable why they don't wait for this investigation to play out that may not even go anywhere. What other choice do they have, really, if you're in their shoes?
Sure. Well, there's a lot of information that you can gather within a relatively short amount of time before deciding to go ahead and make that payment. And that's where the incident response firms can step in and help. That's where companies like CipherTrace can also step in and help. We can analyze payments that have already been made to that particular ransomware group or actor. And then we can make an informed decision about whether or not that payment may potentially constitute a sanctions violation, which is what we saw the Department of Treasury advise at the end of 2020, that payments made to ransomware groups that are sanctioned entities, state actors that are sanctioned, can actually result in a sanctions violation for the victim that was actually the victim in this particular case.
So, okay, so the hacker gets sanctioned, let's say, best case scenario, but that still doesn't get the company's business back up and running again. I understand your firm does a lot of work. We understand that part of it, but you can kind of understand where the companies are coming from, too, when they're faced with either paying a ransom to get back to business or waiting for sanctions, hiring a firm, etc. So a lot of lawmakers are calling for a law against paying ransoms. What role should Congress really play in preventing these attacks?
Well, information sharing is key here. We really need to see increased collaboration between private and public sector. There's a lot of information that is being held within the private sector, businesses and firms that continually deal with ransomware. And then there's also segregated information that's being held within the public sector. And if we can combine forces between the public and private sector, that would be a huge bonus to our businesses in the United States that are falling victim to this. Additional to that, we need to increase our international cooperation at the law enforcement level, because even though we may be able to track this cryptocurrency payment in real time as it moves along the blockchain, law enforcement is still restrained in how quickly they can react within the current law enforcement framework that they have for international investigations.
The FBI is now treating these ransomware attacks as acts of terror. What does that mean for the people who are caught carrying them out? And does it mean anything at all if they're overseas and in countries that aren't willing to extradite?
Sure. So we do have, obviously, actors that are taking refuge within countries that are not cooperating with countries who are really hosting the victims and actually bearing the brunt of the ransomware attacks. And, really throughout 2020, we saw ransomware quadruple throughout the world. We saw an increase in the ransomware payment go from $312,493. It went up to $312,493, an increase of 171% from 2019. So this is certainly something that, if it's not calling attention to the public sector, it's certainly calling attention of the private sector, because this is real money walking out the door and going to possibly fund terrorist organizations, proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. It's going to sources that ultimately we may not actually know the extent of the damage that these funds could actually fund.
And in the public sector, I mean, what are the broader implications of that? There's infrastructure, electric grids, water system security networks. Why should all of us be concerned, even if we're not directly affected by one of these attacks?
I think we saw why a lot of us are concerned when Colonial Pipeline suffered their ransomware attack, and then the East Coast was, largely left without gas or had a gas shortage for several days there. This is definitely something that impacts the overall economy within the United States and the Western world. It is certainly something that affects our pocketbooks. When we have these large organizations that have to pay out these large ransoms, it definitely is going to get passed along to the consumer as well.
All right, Pamela Clegg, thank you very much for joining us tonight on Prime.
Thank you.